We'd like to walk you through the steps that you would need to follow to transfer your media from one of our new ABC HD camcorders into Final Cut.
The first thing you want to do is create a location to store all your media. If you don't, you might lose some of your information and get the dreaded media offline.
Some locations we suggest are on your local desktop, onto an external hard drive, or specific locations on our APACE server.
One note about APACE is that we've set up certain locations like the basement of the Spory and the Rexida offices so you can transfer, edit, and render directly from the server. But if you find yourself in another location like, say,
the ICOM office, then your best options would either be the local desktop or an external hard drive. Otherwise, you might find editing from the APACE server to be slow and ineffective.
This is slow and ineffective.
Once you have chosen a location for your project, you should create a folder there with a very specific name for your project. Generic names can later cause confusion, so you should avoid names like Jim's Project or Cheese, for example.
Our example project is for a class and it's about doorstops, so we'll call it COM365 Doorstops. Once you create that folder, you're ready to open Final Cut. Final Cut should be at the bottom of the screen in the dock. It's the icon that looks like the little clapper they use for movies.
Some of our computers have both Final Cut Pro and Final Cut Express. In transferring the media, it won't matter which you use, but after imported, Final Cut Pro offers a lot more options than Express.
Now that you're here in Final Cut, the first thing to do is set your scratch disks. If you want to know the importance of doing this, check out our Final Cut Kitchen tutorial for more info on it. For now, it suffices us to say that it is very important.
You'll find the scratch setting by going to the menu bar and clicking Final Cut Express, then choosing System Settings. This window will appear. You'll notice that these options are set to default folder called Scratch. You should never leave them on that folder as it is emptied often. Click on the Set button here on the topmost option. You can find and select your project's folder. Then click Choose. You'll want to then repeat that process on these 3 bottom folders to ensure that all of the pieces of your project end up in the same place. And when you're all done, click OK.
Now you need to give your project a name so all of your media will stay with the project. Go to the menu bar, click File, then go down to Save Project As. Now name your project and put it in the folder that we already created. Now our project's ready to actually get some media.
Let's open the transfer window by clicking File in the menu bar and choosing Log and Transfer. This window should appear. What you do next depends on the type of media you are using. When you check out equipment, you'll get 2 of these 4GB SDHC cards.
You may also, however, have one of these 40GB dump drives. For information on why you may want to get one of these, check out our equipment tutorial on APACE.
But since they're the most common, let's start out with the cards. At this point in the process, I would want to stick my card into the card reader and make sure the access light blinks. The video on the card will automatically appear in the transfer window. If it doesn't, make sure to see the production manager, as he will most likely be able to solve the problem.
The dump drive takes a little bit more work. First, plug the drive into an open USB slot on the computer. Set the drive on a flat surface and turn it on. Then, once the drive is mounted, go to the Options tab. It looks like a little gear right up here on the top right-hand corner. Choose your dump drive and then the PANA folder. In this folder, you'll find at least one folder with the series of numbers. These numbers should correspond to the date and time you transfer the media onto the drive. Choose yours and click Open. Your media should appear ready to transfer.
How you decide to transfer your media is up to you, but we do have some tips that will help make your life and the lives of others a lot easier. First is to not stick with the default name on all of your clips. If you do, we might end up with thousands of clips in 1 week with the exact same name, causing mass hysteria and pandemonium. Now here's how we avoid that.
Back in the transfer window, you'll see that as you click on a particular clip, You can then play or scrub through it to discover what the clip looks like. Then, double-clicking on the name of the clip allows you to rename it appropriately. Even if you think that you don't have time to look at each clip, at the very least, give each clip a name that corresponds to your project in some sort of numerical order. Kinda like this.
The next tip helps us cut down on drive space and helps you cut down on editing time. It's called logging, and it's what professionals do to organize their work. Ah, my eyes!
We just click on the clip we want, then we can play or scrub through it to see if we want to use it. If we decide we only want a specific piece of the clip, we just need to cut it by setting in and out points. It's kind of like In-N-Out Burger, but not quite as tasty. First, find the place where you want the clip to start and click this Mark In button, or just press the I key on the keyboard. Then find the end of the clip and use this button, or the O key. If you name your clip here and press the Add Clip to Queue button, the selected part that we just did will start to transfer to your project. You can select as many pieces of the clip as you want. This can be really useful, especially for things like interviews. Here's how.
Let's say that I want to take certain portions of this interview. The first thing that I would do is to name the clip Jackson Interview 01. Then I begin to find the parts of the interview that I want. You'll notice as I add the individual clips, they begin to number themselves automatically in the order that I add them, saving me editing time and hard drive space.
Once all my clips have finished transferring, I can close the transfer window. It's always a good idea to save your project right now, so that if anything happens, you could come back to this point. And now, we're ready to edit our media.
The last thing we should mention is that if you choose the desktop of the local computer to store your project, you should move it somewhere else, then delete it after editing. This will ensure that everyone has enough space to edit and that you don't lose your project when we periodically clean the desktops.
Following these steps will really help you stay organized, and you should never lose any of your media.
So make sure you check out some of our more advanced video editing tutorials located on the APACE server.
Stay organized, BYU Idaho.
Seriously? Dude, that was so lame.
What?
I can't believe you said that. Jay, where are you going?